Senegal win their first ever African Cup of Nations in dramatic style in a penalty shootout where Sadio Mane, who missed a penalty in the opening 5 minutes of the game, buries the last penalty of the 5 for Senegal, dumps Egypt out at the last hurdle and brings home Senegal's first ever African Cup of Nations. It was an edgy game at times. Senegal, the better team overall. I would say they deserved it. But there's a lot to digest from that match. Egypt's goalkeeper, take a bow, son. I hope you get a big move after this. Gabaski is his name, was sensational today. Koulibaly at the back, proving exactly why he's been regarded as one of the world's best central defenders for a very, very long time indeed. And people that call Mane and Mo Salah system players are foolish. Throughout this tournament, they have carried their teams on their back in terms of moving forward with the quality that they possess. But a massive, massive, massive congratulations tonight to Senegal for lifting their first AFCON trophy ever in their history of their brilliant nation. Commiserations to Egypt. We're going to delve into all your comments. We're going to take some callers. We're going to get some panelists on for you as well. Make sure that like button is being smashed. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace. Let's do this. If you're on the lookout for a new pair of jeans, fancy a new shirt, just want to update your wardrobe, today you are in luck. The Football Terrace is again partnering with Boohoo Man, where we can give you an extra 10% off their entire clothing range on their website right now. All you need is promo code TFT10 and or the link in our description below. So when you're finished here, go check it out. Go get yourself some brand new clobber. A little bit of a discount from the Terrace. Big thank you to Boohoo Man. Now just smash this like button. Let's start the stream. Let's go. There we have it. There we have it. Champions are Senegal. And of course, I didn't say this in the opening kind of monologue, but Edouard Mendy, another trophy for him. Excellent from the penalty spot. He guessed right on a couple of occasions, saving a few of those chances, giving Mane the opportunity to put the game to bed. And look, I didn't manage to consume as much of the AFCON as I would have wanted to because of, the transfer window and everything else going on. But the last few rounds, I managed to catch some of the games. Wanted to cover today massively because, it's an important thing to try and cover. And I was really impressed with the game overall. I was really impressed with the football. The to and fro over the final was excellent for me because Senegal were the aggressors. They were better on the ball. They put the pressure, of course, upon Egypt. But Egypt had their moments in the game where they were able to break away and move forward. Mo Salah got very little change today in the way he attacked. The two centre-backs in Diallo and, of course, Koulibaly were absolutely sensational. And I think that's where the overall difference was today. When you go through the squad, you've got El Neni, of course, Mo Salah, and a handful of others that play at the highest level across Europe. But the majority of Egypt's squad play in Egypt, where Senegal have a much better array of talent that are playing across the world. And you could just see that quality. But Egypt have done this all tournament. They've been resolute. They've been hard to break down. They've been a little bit... Imagine Burnley with a world-class attacker, hard to break down, fairly direct in the way they play football. And there were a few moments, there was a last-minute save in extra time from Edouard Mendy that kept Senegal in this match. But it was quite enjoyable. It's one of those games where it's a 0-0, but it's an enjoyable 0-0. I enjoyed it. It was enthralling. You kind of felt that it was going to go to penalties. And sometimes when your nation's not in it, there's no better way to end a tournament than with a penalty shootout drama all the way. But Senegal lift their first trophy. Mane goes back to Liverpool maybe in the next week or so with the biggest smile on his face. Of course, Koulibaly, Diallo return to Europe. Mendy will return to Chelsea as winners as well. And I know a lot of Liverpool fans are a little disappointed. They would have preferred Salah to win it, maybe over Mane, maybe because they want Salah to push for the Ballon d'Or and winning your continent's international tournament. There's always a way of doing that, but it just wasn't to be tonight. Just wasn't to be tonight at all. Let's have a look at what a few of you are saying in the comment sections. C says, Salah, system merchant, fraud in Koulibaly's pocket is what KC's got to say. Salah looks so bad in this Egyptian side. He is a system merchant. Get Klopp out and and Salah is going to be useless for Liverpool. Overrated, Salah in the mud. Look, what I'm going to say about Mo Salah on this occasion is very, very simple. Very, very simple. It's about the team that's around you. Do you know, it's funny, right? Because we talk about this a lot at club level, and you'll see a team who are struggling. They're in 4th place, 5th place, 6th place, and some of their so-called stars are not being overtly consistent. They're not delivering maybe like Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba doesn't play for United like he does for France. It's because France are a better team than Manchester United. Are we really expecting Mo Salah to perform at the exact same level for Egypt as he does for Liverpool? When, if Liverpool Football Club played Egypt, Liverpool would win. Like, they are a better football team. I saw people during the game say things like, well, Messi carries Argentina. Did you see there was times in the Argentina side where his attacking partners were Sergio Aguero, okay, a peak Higuain, Angel Di Maria, just to name a few. You can't compare what Messi had Argentina to what Mo Salah is playing with at with Egypt. I'm sorry, that's just my take anyway. You all may disagree, but I certainly don't. We're going to bring the panel out now to have their say. We've got a gal coming on. We've got the Fantasy Pavilion. We've got Samuel. We've got Man Like Gav, and we've got Ram to come on and have their say on this one. Make sure the like buttons are being smashed. A big shout out to Boohoo Man that have sponsored us all weekend. If you want an extra 10% off of all their current products, get onto their website after this game. Use my link. Use my promo code TFT, of course, the Football Terrace 10 for the extra 10%. Knock yourselves out. Their gym wear, by the way, is astounding. I've been wearing it. Over a stone of weight loss. Over a stone of weight loss in a month. Partly down to Boohoo Man. Let's get the panel out now, people. Let's get this show on the road. Just want to make sure I've got the right background on. I think I've got the right background on. We'll see anyway in a few moments. Let's do this. How are we?
I'm happy. I'm very happy, man. Senegal, the best team in the competition, they finally won it and they deserved it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of deserved it. We'll get onto it in a minute. What are you saying, Gal? Did you feel like it went to the right team tonight? What are we saying?
I felt like Egypt deserved it more. I felt like the teams they faced, they beat Cote d'Ivoire, they beat Morocco, they beat Cameroon. They went to 90 minutes. They went to extra time. It went to penalties. And it went to penalties 3 out of their last 4 games. Yes, you could say they rode their luck, but they are nowhere near the level of Senegal. You look at the Senegal team. You look at their squad. Terry, you said it earlier. They have a majority of their first 11 playing in Europe. Every single player in this first 11 that played today, except for one, their left back, plays in Europe and in a top 5 league. You can't say the same about Egypt. They only have 2 players that play in the Premier League, and the rest of them don't even play anywhere near that level. So I'm just going to say it was a massive underdog story, and Egypt should have won this game. But you know what? They went to penalties, and Senegal won it. Shout out to them. They just have the better quality players. They should have been clear in the first place.
Anybody else agree? I understand where you're coming from. Egypt were the underdogs, and they did very well. You kind of tell that by listening to the commentators. Egypt were not expected to win. I mean, I don't think Egypt were expected to go this far in the tournament, so it's almost, they were punching above their weight. But Senegal, though, surely they were the better team tonight and deserved it in terms of balance of play, or does anyone disagree with that?
Nah, I think so. I think Senegal the whole tournament has been dominant. They've been putting up performances very well. Not saying that Egypt haven't, but I think it comes down to who has the better team, and Senegal have the better team. You got Koulibaly, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Mane, Ismaila Sarr. Like, quality's going to come out either way, and it did. I think I just want to address all the people who are saying, obviously Egypt lost, and a lot of rival fans are going to say Salah is dead. Salah playing is a system merchant. Outside of Liverpool, he does nothing. Let me remind you, when they played their most difficult opposition, which was Morocco, Salah turned up. Without him, they wouldn't have got to this level. They wouldn't have got to the final. So just putting it out there, context needs to be provided. I mean, when he has been told to show up, he's shown up. So let's have it right. Let's have it real.
Guys, this game, if you, I would not rewatch this game in a million years. Obviously, it wasn't a great game. But when it comes down to it, if you see the game, bar the penalty, what did Senegal do? Senegal did nothing. Egypt had 2-3 chances where they could have got something, but they didn't really do much
They
either.
could.
Both
Senegal had that.
both teams really didn't do nothing in this game. If you're gonna say up to this point who deserved it more, it's definitely Egypt. No one can.
I think it's a little bit disingenuous. I think Senegal had a couple of decent chances. They had a cross in that the striker didn't get clean contact on, and it ricocheted off Mane. The guy, I can't remember, is it Dieng? Dieng, the striker, had a shot from distance, which was a very, very good shot from distance. They've created chances, but they just couldn't finish. So I think it was equal in the end.
I think you got to look at it this way: man of the match was given to Gabaski.
Yeah,
if Gabaski being man of the match tells you that Senegal created opportunities. They did have their chances. He made 3 or 4 excellent saves in the game. The one thing I'd say about Egypt is they were very difficult to break down. That's their best commodity. If they opened up and tried to attack, they would have got picked off. They would have got pulled apart. There's no doubt about it. But look, for Leaf is giving you lot stick, by the way. Leaf, Leaf, the Spurs fans just tweeted me saying your panel is useless for African football. You guys really know nothing about African football. Can you get some people on that know what they're talking about?
Listen,
you come on.
Yeah, my man, come on, man. Come on.
You come on, Leaf. You know so much about African football. Come on. By the way, you don't need to be an expert on African football to assess a football match you just watched.
You don't be an expert on any game that you watch. It's watching what you've seen.
Leaf. Come on, Leaf. Get yourself on and see if your mouth is big. Now, what's that about Leaf? Leaf is the politest guy when he comes on camera. On Twitter, he turns into a bit of a knob. He's a bit of a geezer, like this bad. Anyway, Gav, go on, mate.
Yeah, I just think that was probably one of the better finals that you'll see in any competition. Both teams did actually want to win the game, and especially after that first 4 minutes, that penalty that was missed by Mane, that could have gone horribly wrong from that point. But I thought they attacked whenever they had the opportunity to. Gabaski, as you mentioned before, he was man of the match, and when you were talking about what teams this team's face and what teams that team's face, it's no one's fault. It's not like an FA Cup draw or something like that. You've got your pathway, you've got to go through it, and all you could do is beat what's in front of you. It sounds really basic, but that is true. Burkina Faso, they were a good side, and they've proved it over the whole competition. It weren't easy for Senegal to pick them off and beat them as such. Do you know what I mean? So I think, and any disrespect towards Egypt, they're the record holders of the competition, I believe. Was it 7 times?
Yeah, 7. Yeah.
7 times. That's a lot. You know what I mean? So, and the fact that Senegal had never won it before, it gave me sort of Netherlands vibes before the final, and like Belgian vibes, all this golden generation, all these best players. Cote d'Ivoire vibes from a few years ago, from like 10-15 years ago, when they had the likes of Kalou, Drogba, Javinho, if you want to mention him, all that sort of stuff. But they had such a good side and they weren't able to get over the line. So the fact that Senegal were able to do that today, hats off to them, man. And the winning penalty, tell me someone who's taken a better penalty than that under the circumstances.
That's true.
Yeah,
last kick of the game. That is incredible.
And also the fact he'd missed one earlier in the match. There's always that kind of nervousness. Maybe he's just going to take it simple and simplistic. He didn't. He absolutely placed it, but with power and precision. And Mane walks away from this as the victor. Especially in for our point of view as Premier League fans, I was interested to see who was going to come out on top between Mane and Salah. And look, I put it this way, players like Mane and Salah being at this tournament make more people that consume the Premier League watch it. If they weren't there, less of us would tune in. And that's just the simple facts of the matter that remain around it. But I agree with you. Obviously, we've got to my man here as well. Gerardo, what you saying, mate?
Hey man, thanks for having me. First off, I just want to say overall, now I watch the tournament from a fantasy perspective, right? Because I do fantasy sports. So overall, I thought in terms of the underdogs, it was a great tournament because you had teams like Malawi, Gambia, Cameroon putting on some good performances, and a lot of them made it into the knockout rounds, right? It wasn't a typical, they just were here to make up the fixtures, right? In terms of this finals, obviously to me, Senegal were the better team overall. Egypt, if we're being very honest, overall in the tournament were poor. Right, they just did enough to win the games and to get through, but they were not by any means great or amazing. But in this particular game, I thought You know, they had their chances were a bit more closer. Of course, Gabaski was very busy coming out here and he had about 4 solid, decent saves. To me, the better team won it overall. The team of the tournament had to be Senegal. Senegal played really well. And they only conceded, 2 goals for the tournament, if I'm not mistaken, right? Defensively, they were not too bad. And they only conceded those goals in the knockout rounds, right? They were cruising through, not doing too bad at all. As I said, Egypt were not that hot. But, you know, to me, if this was Italy, because Italy does that. If it was Italy plays that kind of game. They just secure the 1-0 or secure the 0, get the game, bam, and win. So Egypt did the same thing. If that was Italy, no one will, you know, bat an eyelid. So to me, Egypt just did bare minimum. And that's it. And they reached the final.
Mate, and that's what tournament football's about. That, you know, you look at it this way: England didn't win, but have got to a semi and a final, 2 tournaments running. Were they the best footballing team at any of those tournaments? No. But tournament football isn't about always looking the best and thrilling everybody in those ways. It's about winning football matches, and you've got to do it in a way. And you could kind of tell the longer that game went on, the more it looked like Egypt were going to win. They looked more comfortable as it went into those later stages. Senegal got a little bit kind of edgy. I put a bet on actually at about 70 minutes on Egypt to win 1-0. I could see him nicking a goal on the break, something from a corner as an example. I suppose the only thing they'd be disappointed with tonight is that they didn't create Mo Salah that one chance. That's the one thing I would say. They're probably going to go away and go, that's the only thing we didn't do. But when you look at the defense that they had out there tonight, Diallo and Koulibaly, by the way, centering things up. And Koulibaly's an interesting character because 2 or 3 years ago when he was linked to Premier League clubs, everybody was talking about him, buzzing about him, raving about him. And he's kind of stopped. I'm not saying his stock has dropped, but no one really speaks about him as being as good as he really is. And
Terry, his stock has dropped. His stock has dropped.
But it's stopped because
a couple of years.
Okay. But why his stock has dropped? Because suddenly the clubs aren't interested in him and the papers aren't talking about him. He didn't become a worse football player. And he showed tonight, especially if you watched it, how good a centre-back he really is. And I do think some bigger European teams than Napoli have kind of missed a bit of a trick with not signing him, because not only was he excellent from a physical standpoint, which you need to be as a centre-back, he also excellent on the ball. Absolutely brilliant on the ball tonight as well. We're going to be getting man like Mo out in a few moments to join us on the terrace as well to have his say. What's he say here? What's he saying here? Leafs back. Koulibaly is so underrated because he plays for Napoli. Bro, but I've just spoke about African football and you said I didn't know anything and now we're agreeing.
I think something about the Koulibaly situation when his stock did slightly drop. And I'm not just saying it as an Arsenal fan, but Arsenal played against Napoli in the Europa League a couple of years ago and he wasn't at the races. And everyone's allowed to have a bad day or a bad couple of games, but it's almost like because he was rated at £90 million, he had 2 bad games against Arsenal. Everyone was just like, oh, well, you can't play against Arsenal. You can't play in the Premier League. And I think it's such a disrespect. I don't want to say he's overrated. I think he's a very good defender, but I don't think he was 90 million very good, if that makes sense. And he's now coming up to, what is he, 30, 31 now?
Yeah.
I think that might be a little bit of a stumbling point right now.
Terry, everyone's asking me to do it, so I'm just going to do it. Give credit to Mendy. Obviously, he's won the Champions League. He's now won African Cup of Nations. Just another thing that he's adding to his repertoire, and it's becoming more and more impossible to find chinks in his armor. Obviously, it is a full team performance and a full team win, but he's been outstanding, and it's not only throughout this game, but of course throughout the tournament. And I just want to shout out to him, one of the best goalkeepers in world football. But you just got to look at that team. They have an amazing spine. Obviously, Mane in the front of the attack. You have Mendy, you have Koulibaly, who we spoke about, and in the midfield, you just look at their midfield. They have Idris Gueye, who used to play for Everton, currently plays for PSG. They have Kiate for Crystal Palace. Their spine is amazing, and I just want to say, this team, we underestimate how good they actually are. They match up to some South American teams and even some European teams. With
with Senegal, is like the previous AFCON tournaments, the favourites, the best teams have always like fell short. Like Cote d'Ivoire in many years, they already managed to win in 2015. That was it. Many times before they faltered. You look at Senegal 2 years ago, they lost to Algeria in the final in a heartbreaking run, I think last minute to Mara's goal. And the thing is about being a favourite, there's a lot of pressure on you to succeed. And Senegal were under pressure the whole tournament. They were expected to win this tournament, and listen, they delivered it. It was a little bit rocky at some times, but they finally done it.
We're going to bring Mo out now to join us on the terrace to have his say as well. Let's get this show moving. I just need to make sure I've got the right things ready to put up on my screen. I do. Let's do it. Mo is now here with us on the terrace. How are you feeling, mate?
I'm a little bit like deflated after this game. I'm Egyptian, if people don't know that. One things I want to say, the difference between Mane and Salah today is that we talked about the Senegalese team. On paper, they are actually better on paper than a lot of European teams that you see in the Euros. As Eagle said, they're a lot better than a lot of the South American teams. They have players starting for PSG, Napoli, Leicester City. I think they have Ismail Assar, one of the best bottom half of the table in the Premier League. He's really rated by a lot of big clubs. The difference is Mane has a lot of people to back him, like Koulibaly. He has a lot of leaders with him. Mendy, Champions League winner, the goalkeeper for Chelsea. But this Egyptian team, they're really heroes for me because there's only two players that play in the top division, top six competitions in the world, which is Mo Salah and Nenni, who barely plays for Arsenal. So you can imagine how Mo Salah actually led this team to the final. They fought through really, really tough route. There is a massive difference. No disrespect to Burkina Faso, no disrespect to Equatorial Guinea, but if you beat Morocco, Cameroon, and Cote d'Ivoire, it's so different. All I want to say is that Egypt, this squad mostly play local in Egypt, in the Egyptian league. And it's very hard to actually match up with these great players for Cameroon, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, all these players, that all these nationals that have all these players that play in Europe and play everywhere that we know. We watch them every week on TV. So the way that Mo Salah led this team to the final mentally is absolutely heroic. And it is very different than being a clutch. And he was a clutch for us. If you look at the games that he did, maybe he did not score as much as Mane, but he was clutch. He provided the assist and the goal against Morocco. And I think when against Cameroon, he scored the goal to equalizer for us to get to the penalties. So that's the difference. Mane is a brilliant player. He's actually as good as Salah, but imagine if Mo Salah plays for a team that is full of stars like the Senegalese team. Not taking anything away from Mane, but I think the achievement of Mo Salah in this tournament is better than anybody in this tournament just because of the squad he has at his proposal.
I'm going to bring Leaf in. Leaf's really shouting backstage to say something. What are you trying to say, bro?
No, the African football does not work like that. Just because you have players from Europe does not mean that your team is amazing. The Egypt team has players that have literally beat every single African team and they won the African Champions League. They have players from Zamalek, they have players from Al Ahly. They are very experienced top players. They should be beating teams that they came up against. African football does not work like that. Look at Gabanski today. No one thought he was a goalkeeper like that, but African football works like that, especially in Cameroon, where it's really hot and the pitch, the conditions of the pitch are so horrible compared to Europe. If you're used to it, like most of the Egyptian team was, then you can really win this tournament. I thought Egypt, they should have won. They should have won the tournament. They were favorites.
But to be honest with you, I just want to say that Egypt, when you reach the final through 320 minutes and then two of them are penalties, it's very different than actually reaching the final fair and square, beating teams easily like what Senegal did. If Egypt would have won this tournament, it would have been Egypt fighting through mountains and all this stuff. Yeah. I know people talk about Egypt in Africa is a different monster than everybody, but still, you can imagine as a player playing for Al Ahly or Al Zamalek in Egypt, going against Koulibaly, who you watch on TV, or going against Kouyate, who plays for Crystal Palace, or Diallo, who plays Champions League alongside Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. I know that Egyptians don't think about it like this, but on the field, I think players, they have a lot on their shoulders to perform against these stars. And we saw today, Salah is trying to do anything against Koulibaly, and it did not work. But to be honest, this Egyptian team, they actually, against all odds, reached the final. Nobody actually picked them to actually go past the round of 16, to be honest.
I disagree. I strongly disagree.
So hang on. So again, it's fine you disagree. If you disagree, who was picking them, barring you, who was picking them to win it?
Well, in Africa, from the people I talked to that are African, a lot of people pick Egypt to go to the final, not to win it. I didn't think that Morocco would beat Egypt. I didn't think that Ivory Coast would beat Egypt because of how Ivory Coast play and their pedigree against Egypt. So, yeah.
We have a super chat here that says apparently the Egyptian league is strong and can be compared to some European leagues. That's how competitive their league is, and I'm not going to dispute that because I don't personally know. I'm here to be educated as well. I assume if an Egyptian team won their version of the Champions League, they're going to the World Club Championship.
Yeah, they go to CWC.
It tends to happen quite a lot. The Egyptian teams will always go deep in the in their version of the Champions League.
Okay,
No, the Egyptian teams always win it, guys. The Egyptian teams, they have the record first and second of winning the African Champions League. But that doesn't mean that it's they are as compared as the European.
And I'm trying to get to this point. So is that a case of, you know, like in Italy, for instance, the majority of top Italian players never leave Italy. They pretty much all stay there, right? Is that what kind of happens in Egypt, where the majority of their better players are coaxed into, paid to, whatever it may be, sort of staying in the nation and playing? Is that why they're so strong on the continent? That's first question. The second question would be, if they keep the majority, that's true, they keep the majority of their best players in their nation playing, but the majority of the top players from countries like Senegal, countries like Nigeria, as an example, Algeria, because their players all go and play for Europe, seem to appear to all go and play for European teams. Doesn't that make it easier for Egypt to win their continent's version of the Champions League?
I think that's got something to do with colony as well, because you tend to find a lot of the colonies of like French colonies, aren't they? And they might end up moving to France or moving to, like, using that as a pathway to get into Europe. You tend to see that a hell of a lot. Do you know what I mean? And like in Egypt, that don't happen. So.
I just don't like this narrative that I'm seeing on the internet right now that Mo Salah blew it or Egypt blew it or they absolutely bottled it. No, it's not that at all. This went to penalties. They fought their heart out for 120 plus minutes, and these guys need to relax.
I agree with you, Agal. I do agree with you. I don't think they bottled it at all. But I will say this as an Englishman. When we don't win things, we are bottle jobs. Everyone let the country down. Everyone's going to... I will say that. Like, if it was England right now and Harry Kane had a game like that, you'd be saying, where was Kane? What was he doing? I know what you'd be saying, Agal. You'd be straight on Harry Kane's neck.
I think I came. No, I didn't come on after the European final, but I am on record saying numerous times that you can't blame. I get where you're coming from. Obviously,
okay, it's not a dig at you. It's
obviously there's agendas. Obviously, there's agendas.
What the agenda is you've got rivals of Liverpool going at Mo Salah. It's just the nature of. And by the way, it was win-win tonight for people that hate Liverpool, because if Egypt were to have won, they'd be doing the same thing to Mane. It's just it is what it is. It's just an easy one. It was always going to kind of happen in that way. I wanted to ask you guys a question though while we're on. Do you feel there was a lack of this? Come up a lot during the tournament. Was there a lack of respect from the UK broadcasters to this tournament in people's opinions?
Yes. Fully. Sorry, go ahead.
Can we have a look at the coverage of tonight? It was the final. They do it with the Bundesliga as well. When it's Bayern versus Dortmund, they get a full panel on, and like, unfortunately for them, they don't actually know what they're talking about. I'm a massive Bundesliga fan, so. But like tonight, they had ex-players, they had Jess Crichton, full black cast, all of African descent. I thought it was brilliant. Why can't they have done that throughout the whole competition? They didn't even show the opening ceremony, which I think is the ultimate disrespect. And from that moment on, I knew straight away that it was going to be bad. I mean, like in the early games, there was just a commentator, no co-coms, barely knew anything about any of the players, and was just like, it's almost like they were just doing it just for a couple of quid. I mean, like, if you have a look just on UK YouTube alone, the amount of and Twitter and stuff, how many African descent content creators are there that are doing really bleeding well? You know, that some of them are featured on your channel, Terry. Do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, why not give some of these guys an opportunity? You know, they're there. We're seeing some of them on Sky Sports at the moment anyway. So why aren't they using those guys to promote or to, get them up onto the next level. I think it's been absolutely embarrassing from Sky. I think that all they care about is the Premier League, in my opinion. They don't care about anything else. They don't even care about Football League Too Tough. I think it's really, really piss poor.
I think the game was on BBC in the UK. And when it comes to beIN Sport and coverage across the world, I wouldn't know. But one thing I'll tell you is the reason why they don't put as much effort into it is because the level of investment is not in it. Let's be real. If there was more investment in AFCON and it had better camera coverage, it had better timing also. If it wasn't being played at the same time as when other major leagues are going on, it would have better coverage. But at the moment in time, the reality of the situation is it's not that they don't care as much about the tournament. It's that it's happening in the middle of the season and it's not as much effort is going to go into it because there's still other things that have them preoccupied.
Yes, that's exactly. I just want to add something here that Igal said. It was very true. Don't take it the wrong way. People broadcast where the money is. It is as simple as that. There was no money in this African Cup of Nations for people to put all the pundits and everything. The coverage was poor because the production from the African country, from Cameroon, was poor. It's the reality that people don't want to understand it. People are calling for this tournament to be in the summer because they want the players to be rested. They don't want the clubs to be opposed to their players to go. If you make this tournament in the summer, it will get coverage. But the African countries, they want to make it in the winter because of the weather, but this is the backlash you're gonna get. It's not about anything other than it's in the middle of the season. You're not gonna get the same coverage if it's in the middle of the season when Liverpool is playing and Arsenal is playing.
Yeah, do you know what I would say about Gav? Where Gav's coming from, I think Sky could have done a lot more. They could have got people on that. Watch more African football, whether it be their version of the Champions League, which I respectfully will say I don't know what it's called, whether it's watching the nations on a more regular basis. What I will say is this though, when Nigeria were knocked out, I was a little shocked because there's people that I know personally who tell me they're big Eagles fans and they tweeted like, oh, I've just seen the score, I didn't realize we'd been knocked out. So there was part of me that was like, I saw you kicking off before the tournament. There weren't much coverage, but then you didn't even watch your nation get knocked out. And that was, I think that's also a part of it. Sometimes there's an element of how, when it comes to the TV companies, how many people are actually going to watch it? Because if they pump, I don't know what it's going to cost. If they pump £1 million into it, but no one's watching, they're going to hemorrhage. And at the end of the day, the one thing that Sky and BT and everybody else does, the reason they do this is to make money. And if they're not going to make money out of it, they're not going to pump it. They're not going to pump it in, into the tournament. So I think there's a little bit of give and throw there. For me, what was disrespectful was kind of like, as you say, I was listening to the commentators tonight, and if someone offered me the job to commentate on this game, I would respectfully decline it. I can sit there after the match and go, what I saw, who I thought was good, who I thought was bad. This is great for Senegal. He was brilliant. The goalie made good saves. But I don't know enough about these individual players to sit there and critique them and talk to the audience about how good they are, where they've come from in terms of their footballing journey. That's where I think they should have invested in better people and showed it a bit. And of course, in the build up to the tournament, nearly every single African player got asked by a journalist at some point, are you going to represent your country? Are you going to stay with your club? Questions like that absolutely should not have been happening at any point. Leaf, I've sent you a DM. I need you to put earphones in, bro, because your end is echoing and it's creating a bit of an echo for us, mate.
You could guarantee if Mane and Salah weren't at this competition, this would not be on Sky Sports. They used it as an opportunity to market these two. That's all it was.
I agree. I do agree with you. And I think it's one of those conversations that I would like to see had with informed people as well. And I mean that in the sense of what was the appetite for it? Like, what were the viewing figures like? How many people were interested in it? And I'll give you an example. We went live after the final that England played in, and we had 9,500 people watching us. There's 1,400 now. So the appetite is clearly different, even with tiny little companies like ourselves. But I do think you can do more. And I think what they didn't do enough is create a bit of a buzz. The one thing I was kind of watching the build-up tonight, and I'm like, I love Quinton Fortune, like he's an ex-Man United player, but he's fucking boring. There was no enthusiasm, there's no noise. And do you get where I'm coming from? Like when in the build up to like World Cups and Euros, the whole week there's a party atmosphere. They build it up, and I think that's where they should have invested more time and money. Take a couple of content creators, send them over there. Daily vlog. Do you get where I'm coming from? Something like that.
You think, Terry? To me, forget footballer in life. You're doing something, do it properly. I just felt like they did it halfway, right? So from the first game, the opening game of the tournament, no pre-show, no halftime show, nothing. As a halftime cut off, then come back to the game, bam, cut off. That's it. No closing remarks. They just did it haphazard, and only for the finals they put some effort. Now I know these things take money and whatnot, but to me, a big company like Sky could have put a little more effort into doing it properly. That was my big issue. They didn't do it properly. They just did like, all right, let's just do AFCON, put it there. And as Gav said there, if it wasn't for Salah and Mane, I feel they wouldn't have even touched the tournament.
I agree. A few people
Can I ask a question?
One second, mate. A few people here are saying, Terry, but you didn't cover any of the games until today. Yeah, because I'm one channel and one person, and I am contracted to cover particular topics with my partners, which I can't drop. If I owned 5 channels like Sky do that can play sport on and was worth over £1 billion, I could pay people to cover more than what I can do I'm one person. So to equate me to Sky Sports is a little bit weird, bruv. It's a little bit strange. Do you know what I mean? It's like turning around to someone who's a blogger who blogs about politics and saying like, yeah, but why aren't you covering politics of all countries and all over the world? Well, they're going to sit there like 37 hours a day writing all articles from where mad, weird. Nice try though. Nice try to dig me out, but
I'm gonna ask the panel a question, Terry. And I ask you.
Great. Igal was gonna say something first. Go on, Igal.
I don't know if we were gonna ask the same question, but my question was gonna be around legacy and like Mo Salah and Mane. Now that Mane has won this, it definitely raises his level in the continent and in world football. But Salah losing this, does he take a hit on where he would rank in like African players? Because if he would have won this, in my opinion, immediately pushes him into top 5. Where Mane, I didn't have him in the top 10 in the first place, so maybe it pushes him in there. But that's what I was gonna ask.
People will forget about this Igal in a couple of months.
Really?
I promise you this. People will forget about African Cup of Nations in a couple of months. When the World Cup comes in, because Egypt plays Senegal and the World Cup qualifier in March, people will forget about it and they will talk about this game. This is what I wanted to say. In the AFCON is not as important as the Euros for the people in Europe. It's the same as the Asian Cup of Nations. Nobody makes the same buzz about the Asian Cup of Nations. Nobody talks about why it's not covered in Europe, why it's not covered in America. But people talk about I'm Egyptian, right? People talk about why AFCON is not covered. Just because a lot of Premier League players and a lot of Serie A players and a lot of La Liga players play in the African nations. And this is why people ask the questions. Coming back to your thing about Salah and Mane, I promise you, people will forget about this as soon as Salah scores his first goal for Liverpool.
You are right about that. It's a great question, though, about legacy, because think about player debates. Think about like player debates we sit down and we've had. When does anybody bring up, for instance, if it's about central midfielders, when do people bring up what Yaya did or Drogba did in AFCON? And that's because, if we're being blunt, most people aren't watching it. Most people aren't watching it for whatever reason, whether the coverage is on, whether they care about it or not. As I said, one of my best friends, he ain't a YouTuber or nothing. The man goes around telling me how much Nigeria. He didn't know they got knocked out. This man was at every single pub and party over the Euro supporting England. I always say to him, bruv, you're actually an England fan. Just like own it. Like, do you know what I mean? I say this all the time. I say, bruv, you're a Nigeria fan for the gram, bruv. It's to look good. It's to sound good, but you don't really care. So I hear you, but people won't bring this up when it comes to GOAT conversations, legacy conversations. It's forgotten. It will be.
It's like a bonus.
It will be forgotten about.
Yeah.
It will be by a lot of people. Which is
actually in the for Mane, I think this is amazing for his legacy, because Senegal have never won this tournament, even though they produced really good teams. Funnily enough, their current manager for their national team, he missed the penalty 20 years ago, and now they win it, and Mane wins it. But for Salah, I don't think it will matter, because I think he will win one. Egypt are very strong. Maybe in the future they can take advantage of other teams that are not doing as well. And Salah, I think he will win one at the end of his career.
I think Salah makes it, but will make it up, because the next time these two face each other, so over 2 legs in a World Cup qualifier, winner takes all. Who's going to Qatar 2022 and who's not? And in a way, part of me thinks this might have been a little bit of a dress rehearsal for it. That's no disrespect to the AFCON, but qualifying for the World Cup will bring so much more revenue to either country, depending like whoever makes it.
Yeah.
So like with Salah, obviously he's going to be devastated. He's going to be upset, but for his country now, the focus will now go towards that qualifier in a couple of months' time. And if Egypt make it, it will almost be like, well, you know what? Fair play to you. You beat us in AFCON. We've got 7 of them. We're now going to the World Cup and you went.
This is already overachieving, right? This is already overachieving for Egypt. Nobody picked Egypt to even go to the final. So for Mani and Senegal, it was expected for them to do something. So exactly what you say. If Egypt qualifies the World Cup, it's done. It's Salah qualified twice. Egypt have qualified for the World Cup 3 times. One of them was Salah. And if they qualify this time, Salah will be probably the best player in Egypt history, just because Egyptian people miss the World Cup. As you said, we won 7 times already, but we want to be in the World Cup. And this is what we care about.
I mean, what was the last time Egypt qualified for a World Cup?
Last time,
Last time.
2018.
But
Before it was 1990, Terry. Before it was 1990. Before that was 1936, Terry.
Okay, but that also flies. I'm asking because again, I'm learning here because I remember the last one. But again, to Leaf's point, like he spoke about how brilliant their football was. It's interesting how they can win so many AFCONs but not qualify for World Cups when competing against the same teams. Interesting. Maybe it's just that I don't know the answer.
Egypt. So the answer is simple. Egypt inside Africa as a national team, they are really monsters in tournaments. They really play tournaments really, really well. But it would come with sporadic games. People like the players don't get in camps. Normally, Egypt, they camp before any tournament for a month or something. The league stops and they camp. But that doesn't happen for the World Cup qualifiers. So they don't play well. Like we go and draw Liberia, for example, but then we face Cote d'Ivoire or Cameroon, and then we beat them in the tournament.
So essentially,
Does that make sense?
You're a good tournament team because you're camped together, you create this unity. But when you fly in for a couple of games and fly back out again, it's not so, the cohesion isn't there. Is that it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly
Right.
what it
If I might clarify my point, I didn't say that the Egyptian football or African football is better than European, or that the players that are playing are better than Koulibaly or Mane or all of these players. I'm saying that under these conditions in Cameroon and under the pitch that they are playing, and the fact that these players in Egypt, they beat most of these players in the African Champions League, they have a very big advantage, and they have been using that advantage forever. That's why they have 7 AFCONs.
And I hear you, and I think you're right. It sounds like they keep a lot of their best players playing nationally, where other nations do not, which helps them in their version of the Champions League. However, what I find intriguing as I'm learning here is they've struggled over the years to qualify for World Cups, but have been able to win the AFCON. And I think Mo just explained that perfectly there, to be absolutely honest.
It's like Tunisia, honestly. I'm from Tunisia. We've qualified for the World Cup more than Egypt, and we've actually done really well in the World Cup. But we've only won 1 AFCON, and we rarely beat Egypt because it's how we play.
No, I hear you. Horses for courses, mate. And that element of football is universal right across the board. England have an amazing record of qualifying for tournaments.
So I'm still confused.
One second. I've got some super chats to do. Then we're going to go to you, my friend. Comment here says Mo Salah looks so bad in this Egyptian side. He is a system merchant. Get Klopp out, and Salah is going to be useless. What do people make of how the media covered the tournament? Thank you very much. That inspired the thing we spoke about earlier. Gabaski showed more bottle than Salah tonight, is what's been said there. Mendy better than Allison is what Redneck Blue has got to say there.
Rent free, man. Rent free.
Rent free. Mo Salah is pocketed in this game. Can we agree on that? Was he?
What about Mane? Why nobody talks about it? The game ended 0-0, guys. Mane didn't score as well. The penalty at the end. I don't get it. Can you just explain this to me, Terry? Mane didn't score in the game, and he missed the penalty in the middle of the game.
Bro, it's not my question. I'm reading someone. I can't. It's not my question. I can't be blamed for that.
That's just how it is, Mo. That's just how it is.
I don't think.
But you guys see my point, right, guys?
Yeah.
You guys see my point.
He's just trying to throw banter, man. They're throwing banter.
I actually think, Terry, Senegal were more predictable than Egypt. And if you're gonna say someone got pocketed, Mane actually got slowed down. Like, he didn't really do much this game. Yes, he won a penalty, but that was in the opening minutes of the game, and he missed it. That's why Egypt were even in the first place, because they kept Mane.
Mane didn't win the penalty.
Cease won the penalty, yeah? Yeah, Cease won the
It was not
penalty.
even Mane winning the penalty.
Yeah, Cease won the penalty, not
My
Mane.
mistake.
Another super chat here says Edouard Mendy's Champions League winner and AFCON winner saved the penalty in the final. Best keeper in the world. Yes, Edu. This comment here is from Sue. It says, let's be real. If Salah and Mane wasn't playing, nobody would be talking about AFCON. Liverpool are the reason AFCON is relevant this year.
That's disrespect because
harsh,
African
It's
football.
harsh,
Okay, guys,
what I
I
was
just
saying
want to,
before.
Terry, I just want to say something about this. African football is very relevant to African people. We watch AFCON every game. Guys, people don't understand that for Asian countries, for Saudi Arabia, Asian Cup of Nations is very relevant. It's not irrelevant to you. Doesn't mean it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to you, maybe because you live in England, maybe because you live in Netherlands. It doesn't matter. But it's relevant to 55 countries in Africa. It's relevant for 1 billion people that live in Africa.
Of course it is. And do you know what's interesting about it is this? Like, someone had a pop at me a little while ago going, why don't you watch women's football? I said, I don't watch the Championship. I don't watch the Eredivisie. I don't watch the MLS. I don't watch the Portuguese league. Like, 0 games. I don't watch Scottish football at all. So there's loads of football I don't watch, mainly because there just isn't the time. And as David says here, I think people really need to be honest with themselves about how much AFCON they actually watch. Because for me, a lot of people are fronting their support. And this is true. A lot of people, I think, have also virtue signaled. A lot of people speak about all different types of football that looks good on the gram, looks good. Oh, I'm this, I'm backing it, I'm doing this. Why are they not here? Well, maybe one of the reasons why the TV companies don't pump money into it is because everybody says they're watching it, but they get the viewing figures in and it's like, well, no one's watching. No one's actually here. And I think David's absolutely right there. And in terms of what is and isn't relevant, one of the reasons why European football is generally more relevant when it comes to the international tournaments is millions of people that live in Asia, live in South America, North America, and Africa support English and European teams. So they have an affinity. A bit like Liverpool fans tonight tuning into the game. They want to see how their two boys do. I'm sure there were Napoli fans tuning in tonight. I'm sure there were West Ham fans tuning in tonight. I'm sure there were PSG fans tuning in tonight. To name a few Arsenal fans tuning in tonight. And then he was playing. Imagine when it's a European tournament and or a World Cup. World Cups make it even bigger because obviously all nations are there and all continents are there, but also the vast majority of the best teams, whether they're South American or European, they tend to be the strongest. The vast majority of their players play in Europe and play for everybody's clubs. The Premier League is the most watched league in the world, as an example, followed by La Liga. So there's always more of a vested interest because you have an affinity to it. There's lots of players on display at AFCON, the Asian version. What's the North American version called? Is it the
CONCACAF.
Don't even know. And the point is, I don't know. When I say I don't know what that one's called, no one looks at me like I'm being offensive. And I know why. I know what people try and twist it into. But I've got no interest in the majority of those tournaments because there's no one that's really there that I care too much about. Do you get where I'm coming from? And
but Terry, you should never have to defend that. If you don't watch those things, you don't watch those things. That's my point. I don't understand that narrative. If you don't like to watch that, why is that an issue?
Do you know why it's an issue? I say blunt why it's an issue. So if me as a man not watching women's football, some idiots twist it into that I'm sexist. Me not wanting to watch regular African football, some will twist it and say, why? What problem do you have with African football? Some people are weird like that. They think it's a personal thing. It's like, no, it's just there's only a certain amount of time in the day to watch football. And I cover the top 6 teams in the Premier League.
And it's irrelevant to you, probably, right? It's very irrelevant to you. Why would you care?
It's not even that it's irrelevant. It's time. More than irrelevance, it's I've got a big bugbear with people that sit there and go, over the course of the weekend, I watched like 4 or 5 games from 4 or 5 different leagues. I think they're lying. Unless you've got 0 life and you don't sleep, you ain't doing that. It's a lie. It's cap.
Yeah, but then people will sit there and watch Netflix seasons and people will sit there and watch films. I don't watch films. I'll get bored by watching films. So I am one of those people that will sit there and watch football from all different leagues and watch the NFL and try and play some darts at the same time in that, because that's how I fill my time. Other people will sit there and will be like, oh, just binge this box set for the last 8 hours. And I think, how did you do that? Why would you do that when there's live sport on? Do you know what I mean?
And I hear you, brother. And I know with you, I know you like your darts and things like that, and you mix it up. I'm a bit like that in the sense of, so I cover the Premier League. I do watch some stuff. You know, this weekend I watched the Milan derby. I watched Dortmund's game today. I watched Barca's game today. they overlapped a little bit. But I'll then spend like 3 or 4 hours in the evening catching up on UFC news, watching whether it's press conferences, training, interviews, because there's not fights every single day. So everyone's got a different passion. But you are right, Jared. Like for me, I don't feel any kind of like weird guilt through not watching a particular league or gender that play football. It's like I just don't watch it. People go, why don't you? It's like I don't know how to answer that question other than I just don't. Do you get what I mean? It's such a weird one to me, and people often sort of, again, in the world we're living in that's full of a lot of fake virtue, people try and twist it into, to get what I mean? It's you get asked some weird questions like that, and it's like someone's trying to like steer you into a corner, which is mad, really. It really is mad. Someone here says, no, you top 6 football teams and Arsenal. Let's just nothing like a little bit of banter there.
Allow us, man.
Allow us.
But to be fair to it, it's all about accessibility to it. It's all about what's accessible, what's marketed, what's pushed. Because it's all about what these channels push and push. Like on this side of the world, EPL is pushed more. You have to fight tooth and nail to get some Serie A coverage. Because I like Serie A. As I said, if Arsenal didn't exist, I'll never watch Premier League, right? I like Serie A. I always grew up watching Inter Milan first and then eventually started back in AC. But I love Italian football, that kind of thing. That's just me personally. But, it's about what is pushed and about the coverage that they get to all in the different parts of the world. So I think that's another issue as well, too. But if you'd like to watch a league, and as you rightfully said, you have how much time, Terry, you have to put in to watch every division, to watch if you want to watch K-League, if you want to boast and say watch all these things. That's a lot of, you have to really, really, really have a great data plan and have plenty time on your hands. That's not easy.
Well, for me as well, it's like, you think about tonight. So I started watching the build up to this game at 6:30. It's now 20 to 11 and I'm still live. Like there isn't another game on now, but if there was, how am I going to watch it? Like what I do for a job, it's crazy. But honestly, I must get called out about 30-40 times a month. Why don't you watch this? Why don't you cover that? Bro, my channel, someone even said like my channel covers the top 6. With the first original top 6 channel that cover those teams. It's enough, bruv. It's enough.
People don't know how much effort you put into making a 6-hour video. You have 3 videos a day, Terry. Each one is at least an hour. That's plus watching the games, doing the guests and stuff like this. I watch all the football that is on TV, especially Premier League. And it's a lot of work for me as a guest coming here or going to Eagle channel or going to my videos just to have notes, prepare, invite guests and all this stuff. So I just watch what I can. I have 3 games on TV, computer and another screen. And I have to prepare, take notes, invite, be here, be there. There's so much time in the day, right? You have to sleep at least 6 to 8 hours a day. And I have a wife as well.
Oh, do you? That's a shock. No, I'm joking. Yes, you can, my brother.
Getting back to legacy, you know how you said it doesn't affect because people are going to forget about this come a couple months time for Mo Salah or even Mane. Does it affect Mendy's legacy a lot?
Well, there was a great...
That it does. It does.
There was a question. There was a question actually that was put in here that I wanted to put up. It's I've just lost it now. It basically said, "Who walks out of this tournament with more credibility, Mane or Mendy?" Like, I'll throw that question out to you all.
I think Mane played the better tournament than Mendy, but it's not Mendy's fault because his defense in front of him is so good. He barely had anything to do. He did very well. He saved the penalty at a crucial moment. At the third penalty when you save it and you let Mane score the winner. I think Mane had an overall better tournament, but it's huge for Mane's legacy, especially considering his story and how he came to Chelsea, and now he's delivering Senegal's first AFCON. So it's great for him.
I think over the course of the tournament, from what I've seen of Senegal, Mane was the guy going forward. Like if you're going to get a goal, Senegal, Mane was the guy. Like you saw it against Burkina Faso last in the semi-final. Like he had a great tournament, and I think the last penalty was fitting because I think, in my opinion, he's been player of the tournament.
Oh no! Come on! Abu Bakar scored 8 goals, 3 assists. He deserves.
I'm being very biased. I'm being very biased though.
So the only thing that people forget when it comes to the round of 16 and then the quarterfinal and the final, people forget that in the group stage, Senegal scored 1 goal from a dodgy penalty, and people just forget that. Yeah. And Mane was there, and he didn't do a lot. And this is something that people forget throughout the tournament. I think Boubacar played really well. through this tournament, and he deserves player of the tournament. No matter what you tell me, they got out of Egypt. He didn't play well against Egypt. So was Mane today, who did not do anything other than scoring the last penalty. That does not make you a hero, to be honest. Mendy was the hero of this penalty shootout. So I think,
don't know about that.
but Mendy was actually the hero of this penalty shootout.
He just scored the winning penalty. He's just scored the winning penalty.
Well,
in
the proper penalty as well, man.
major international competition. I think that makes him the hero in terms of legacy.
The goalkeeper is harder, right?
Yeah, I think as legacy, we'd have to look at Mendy more so because of what he's done in the last 12 months or what he's also potentially due to do in the next 2 weeks as well. He's won the Champions League. You know,
That's what I'm saying. Mendy gets more credit here
so far. Yeah. So legacy-wise, yeah, I think it'd be Mendy over.
But
him.
I think
Right,
it depends.
I think that's I think anyone who says otherwise, we could all say, "Oh, these players did well. That player did well. That's great." But Abubakar was streets ahead because he nailed it throughout the competition, and then in the third, fourth, comes off the bench, bags 2, says, "Cheers, girls." Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
Yes,
I
exactly,
think
yes.
it depends. Like if Abubakar gets player of the tournament, or if Mane gets player of the tournament, hypothetically, I mean, I want him to get player of the tournament, but because obviously Liverpool fan, I want a Liverpool player to be player of the tournament, whatever. But if he does get player of the tournament, and people look at Senegal winning the African Cup of Nations, it would be like, looking back, it would be like, he was the guy that led Senegal to winning the African Cup of Nations. That's how people would see it.
He
even
was
if they
the guy.
watched it or not.
That would be.
it became more about goal
That
scorers.
would
That's
be
why.
wrong, though.
Yeah, goal scorers generally always get the plaudits there. Comment here says, "Do you think Senegal would beat England?"
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Look.
Well, man for man, no. But Gareth Southgate's England.
Wait.
probably yes.
Where is the match
No,
being played?
don't do that. Come
Hang
on.
hang
No.
Leaf, listen. I'll say this straight away. Your yes straight away is like it's a foregone conclusion. There's a very simple answer, which is true. They have the capabilities of beating England, but to act like England couldn't beat them as well is again a weird answer. You know, that would be a really good game. Either team could win it. I actually think a game like that at a World Cup would be almost hard to split. England on paper, some would say, would be more favourable, but that's because you know more of our players. But of course, Senegal could beat England. But England
It would be a really boring game considering how Senegal play and how England's play. I think England would win. I was just bantering because Senegal don't have that pedigree in the World Cup like England do.
Well, I do think what's
never know.
interesting is that in my lifetime, I've seen some very good African nations come to World Cups. Some very good teams from Senegal, some very good teams from the Ivory Coast and Nigeria, also and Ghana all stand out in my head. It's almost like there is a bit of a mental block with those teams. I think quarterfinals is the furthest anybody has gone. If I'm not mistaken, quarterfinal, and I think sometimes they've had teams that have been good enough to go further. And I almost feel like once one or two do that, you may see more almost pick up that mantle. But you actually have to look back, and I mean, I'm not a historian on this, but the growth of African football as a continent over the past 30 odd years is brilliant. That's another reason why it does need more attention and love, because it does help. But yeah, it'd be a great game to see. I would like to see England play, but mainly because obviously where I live, obviously I've grown up with a lot of my friends, predominantly Nigerian and Ghanaian, but I've got a lot of friends from those origins. It just makes that is a vested interest in me. That's a good game. Get the boys round. Do you know what I mean? It'd be a good laugh, a good bit of banter. For my friends, they win either way because they're England fans as well. But for me,
aren't Senegal going to play England in March?
But it's a friendly. No one cares.
Oh, okay.
No,
like they are going to
play.
play.
Real game. It's not a real game at that point.
Out.
Yeah, I mean, we played Nigeria before the last World Cup. It just don't mean too much, you know. Some breaking news. Nothing to do with tonight. This is mad.
It's about Ajax.
Hang on. Don't you. It's a show. Come out naturally. You know. Honestly, you're gonna tell your kids that Santa ain't real, right? Sporting director Mark Overmars has left Ajax with immediate effect.
Wow.
We're not going to go into it too much because obviously that's a show for another day.
Yeah.
Interesting indeed. Where is he going to? I mean, Gooners are going to be sitting there tonight, pulling off their plonkers, thinking he's coming there. I can almost see. I'm going to go across to some of my favorite Arsenal fans in the next 20 minutes. I guarantee that he might be coming to us. I guarantee he might be, but I know it's going to get people's
Thumbnail's already been created.
Bin him. Mane 5GA and he's stat and this stat merchant is waffling. Koulibaly today was incredible. He gets no credit for today. We credited him earlier in the show, to be fair. Big up Senegal, and Salah disrespectfully hold D.
Huh? What does that mean?
I don't know what that means at the end, but there we go. Everybody that has tuned in this evening, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. Big shout out to our weekend sponsors of Boohoo Man. You can get up to 10% off of all their clothing range now by using our promo code TFT10. All the information is in our live comment section or pinned into the description below. But until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. Congratulations to Senegal. And we'll see you all again